Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we will begin reading from Vaisnava Ke. What kind of devotee are you? This is a commentary by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami based on a Bengali poem by His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. There is a verse translation and extensive quotes from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So I would like to start this today on the 1st of January 2026, beginning of a new year and beginning of a new reading. And let's begin with the reading from the preface. And then we'll move to the introduction. Ukam karoti vachalam pangum langhate girim yat kripatamamante shikun gintarinam parmahanmadam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So the preface goes like this. To control the mind is certainly the crux of all yoga systems, including the system of Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness, which is the only practical yoga system in the present age. Indeed, the Bhagavad Gita states that one who has controlled the mind has already reached the supersoul, and that the controlled and uncontrolled mind are respectively the best friend and worst enemy of the conditioned soul. Vaisnava Ke is a Bengali poem written by His Divine Grace Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was the spiritual master, guru of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This poem contains revelations and practical guidance to aid the aspiring devotee in dealing with the types of nonsense deviations which may continue to be proposed by the mind to distract a devotee until he reaches the level of pure devotional service. The devotees and friends of ISKCON became aware of the value of these practical instructions in Vaisnava Ke. What kind of devotee are you? When translations and commentaries on 10 of its verses by His Holiness Jayapataka Swami were published in serial form in the now defunct periodical ISKCON World Review, from that time many devotees, including the publishers of this present volume, have desired that Vaisnava Ke, together with its translation and commentary, be published in the form of a complete book so that its lessons could be repeatedly studied and reflected upon. One GBC member recently remarked that its publication was long overdue. Therefore, it is the humble desire of the publisher to present this book for the pleasure of our predecessor Acharyas. It is especially dedicated to our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, who frequently quoted from the verses of Vaisnava Ke in his lectures and books, and to His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, the author as well as the Vaishnavas all over the world. This book is most pertinent and relevant to those who are trying to advance in Krishna consciousness at the present moment. We must frankly admit that our own wicked minds may have from time to time proposed just the kind of deviations mentioned in Vaisnava Ke. Many devotees left full-time preaching and service in the Krishna consciousness movement for precisely the types of reasons and rationalizations offered by the mind which are described in this book. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has very kindly and plainly described all these subtle matters in great detail. He has also given pragmatic advice as to how the aspiring devotee may remain absorbed in the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without becoming yet another casualty to the attacks of the wicked mind, which many mistake to be their actual self as opposed to what is instead their real nature, the eternal spirit soul. It may also be noted that in presenting his strong challenge to the mind, Dushtamana Tumi Kisera Vaishnava, which Srila Prabhupada has translated as, "My dear mind, what kind of devotee are you?" Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur refers to a Vaishnava or devotee according to his definition, who is situated in his constitutional position, that is, in unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. His intention is that we may not allow our minds to imagine that we are on a very elevated platform in devotional service while at the same time performing activities which are seriously detrimental to our own spiritual advancement and the advancement of the united preaching mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj has nicely translated the text and given an illuminating commentary based on his realizations and the practical experience as a dedicated preacher in the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world for the past 20 years. The commentary is supported with extensive quotes from the books of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami has kindly allowed the publisher to produce this book in its present form. The publisher prays that this book may be of practical benefit to devotees all over the world, as in all cases of whatever individual weakness or collective disunity there may be, the lone accused is none other than our own rascal mind. This was signed 8th of February 1988 in Jakarta on the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So I'm reading from the book which was printed in India in 2012 by the BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust International. Okay, so now let's move to the introduction of the book. With the purpose of invoking all auspiciousness, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is the servitor of His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He has carried Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental teachings to towns and villages all over the world, and out of his mercy has delivered the impersonalists and voidists of the Western world. By his mercy, a lame man can climb over mountains, a deaf and dumb man can become a great orator, and a blind man can see the stars. Let His Divine Grace's merciful glance be upon us in the humble execution of completing the translation and writing purports to What Kind of Devotee Are You, written in the Bengali language by His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So let me show you the cover of this book, and it looks like this. What kind of devotee are you? Vaisnava Ke. And it has Advaitacharya and Mahaprabhu there on the cover. So you can get it from Amazon or various publishers if you are based in India, but Amazon worldwide you can get it, or your local temple can procure it for you. So let's continue with the reading from the introduction. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, my grandfather, spiritual master, on whose order the sublime science of devotional service was brought to the Western world by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Seeing the dangers a devotee faces in this age of Kali, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has mercifully written Vaisnava Ke. Careful study of this book will protect devotees practicing devotional service to Lord Krishna from the dangers of being misled by Maya, the material illusory energy of the path of pure devotion. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are like desire trees in fulfilling the desires of pure devotees of the Lord. By their inspiration, Vaisnava Ke is being presented in the English language with this title taken from Srila Prabhupada's own translation of the first stanza, that is, What kind of devotee are you? Let me offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. the most munificent avatar, and their lordships, Shri Shri Radha Madhav, the supreme form of the Absolute Truth, let their reign of mercy be upon the execution of this sublime study of the science of devotional service, so that aspiring devotees may quickly attain the shelter of their lotus feet. What kind of devotee are you is referred to frequently in the writings of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It gives a unique view of a devotee's introspection while traversing the path of devotional service. Devotional service is a unique science wherein that often appears to be the truth to the uninitiated is actually the opposite, that is, nescience. It seems perfectly natural that retreating from the bustling activities of everyday life would be in fact the best environment for pursuing spiritual life. However, for a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga, leaving the association of like-minded transcendentalists to practice nirjan, bhajan or solitary worship can have a suicidal effect. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has warned of this many times in his writings. The following verse from What Kind of Devotee Are You is just one example of this. This nirjan bhajan, which is the silent worship of the Lord, Supreme Lord, is not possible for a neophyte devotee. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur never advised a neophyte devotee to go to a solitary place to engage in devotional service. Indeed, he has written a song in this connection. Dushtamana tumi kisera Vaisnava pratisthar tare nirjanera ghare tava hari naam kevala kaitava. My dear mind, what kind of devotee are you? Simply for cheap adoration, you sit in a solitary place and pretend to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but this is all cheating. Thus, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur advocated that every devotee, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, preach the Bhakti cult, Shri Krishna consciousness all over the world. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, 28th chapter, verse number 33. There are many ways in which a practicing devotee's mind can subtly influence and bewilder the intelligence, entrapping even a seasoned devotee in the spider-like webs of illusion. Devotional service is easy to perform, but it is equally easy to be diverted from the path of pure devotional service if one is not careful. Human intelligence is the most precious gift in this earth, and the final test to applied intelligence is if one can direct one's life towards self-realization. The body and mind are both mechanical in their function, although one is gross and the other subtle. A bhakti yogi or practicing devotee is already engaging his body in various activities of devotional service, but that is not enough. To achieve success in devotional service, he must also train and educate the mind in devotional reasoning. This is done by spiritually enlightened intelligence. The necessity of uplifting and guiding the mind is expressed by Lord Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita as it is. A man must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. For him who has conquered mind, and the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached. For he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. This is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verses 5 to 7. What kind of devotee are you is uniquely presented as a devotee talking or preaching to his mind. Through penetrating statements to the mind, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur vividly and practically illustrates various ways the mind falls down from pure devotional service. The personal dealings with the mind portrayed in What Kind of Devotee Are You demonstrate the above-mentioned statement from the Bhagavad Gita, whereby the mind can be a friend or an enemy to the advancing devotee. The essential need to conquer the mind's subtle and gross deviations from the path of pure devotion becomes more and more evident with each progressive verse. The ultimate goal of pure devotion and the ideal activity for pure devotees is taught to the mind in the concluding verses. The importance of association with devotees for steady progress in the practice of Bhakti Yoga may be easily underestimated. Devotees are trained to practice devotional service individually and to be self sufficient in many aspects of spiritual life. A neophyte devotee or someone who is bewildered by false pride may easily take association of devotees cheaply. Due to having an untrained mind, an aspiring devotee may not realize that association with devotees is an essential aspect of Krishna consciousness that should not be neglected if one wants to become a pure devotee of the Lord. Just as a sea-going vessel requires some reference points, either radio transmission, stars, or the sun, in order to chart its course across the ocean, similarly, a devotee needs the association of devotees of Lord Krishna in order to cross over the ocean of repeated birth and death and achieve pure love of Godhead. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada confirms the importance of association of the devotees as he explains in the following words his purpose in establishing his Krishna Consciousness Society. A devotee sees all living entities with spiritual vision and does not discriminate on the platform of the bodily concept of life. Such qualities develop only in the association of devotees. Without the association of devotees, one cannot advance in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we have established the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Factually, whoever lives in this society automatically develops Krishna consciousness. Devotees are dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is only dear to devotees. On this platform only, one can make progress in Krishna consciousness. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, chapter 12, verse 37, and this is the purport of that verse. So moving on to the next one, further reading in the introduction, to live and practice devotional service requires a humble state of mind. A devotee is compelled to surrender in different ways while serving in the association of devotees. In his mind, a person may consider that he is a pure devotee, theoretically considering himself to be fully surrendered, but his humility and tolerance are put to the test when directly rendering service in the association of devotees. Although this test may sometimes cause a strain on the false ego, it can actually be beneficial for the advancing devotee. When he does eventually surrender, he will be fixed or steady in devotional service in various circumstances. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his instruction for a devotee's proper attitude in the 3rd verse of the Shikshashtaka, an instruction which he advised devotees to keep in their hearts at all times. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. This is from Shikshashtaka, verse number 3. A devotee once asked Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, how can a devotee be humble? A question to which he replied, by being humble. If a devotee fails to be humble, then according to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement in verse 3 of the Shikshashtaka prayers, how will it be possible for him to constantly chant the holy names of the Lord? Therefore, devotional service is known to be difficult for persons with an inflated false ego or an uncontrolled mind. Even great and austere yogis find devotional service difficult to perform if they have not conquered their false egos. Due to material illusion, one can easily mistake pure devotional service for something material and the material energy for pure devotional service if one does not know the science of devotional service. Devotional service can only be understood from a devotee. Only a devotee can know Lord Krishna. To be assured of success in devotional service, the Vedic literatures recommend Mahajano Yena Gatah Sa Panthaha, that one should follow the footsteps of the great devotional authorities or Mahajans. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada specifically told the devotees of the Krishna Consciousness Society, He founded that they should follow in the footsteps of Dhruv Maharaj, who followed in the footsteps of the 12 Mahajans, and to cultivate the desire always to remain in the association of devotees. However, the principle of always serving Lord Krishna in the association of devotees is universal. The significant point in Dhruv Maharaj's statement is that he wanted the association of pure devotees. Transcendental devotional service cannot be complete and cannot be relishable without the association of devotees. We have therefore established the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Anyone who is trying to be aloof from this Krishna Consciousness Society and yet engage in Krishna Consciousness is living in a great hallucination, for this is not possible. From this statement of Dhruv Maharaj, it is clear that unless one is associated with devotees, his devotional service does not mature. It does not become distinct from material desires. The Lord says, Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti rit karna rasayanaha katha. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 25, verse 25. Only in the association of pure devotees can the words of Lord Krishna be fully potent and relishable to the heart and ear. Dhruv Maharaj explicitly wanted the association of devotees. That association in devotional activities is just like the waves of an incessantly flowing river. In our Krishna Consciousness Society, we have full engagement 24 hours a day. Every moment of our time is always busily engaged in the service of the Lord. This is called the incessant flow of devotional service. And this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, chapter 9, verse 11. And this was the purport of that verse. Moving on. The process of Krishna consciousness is not man-made. It has been introduced into this world by the Lord himself, assisted by his eternal associates and confidential devotees, which you can see on the screen. There's Mahaprabhu, that is Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the middle in saffron color. The tallest personality, who is none other than Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani, who came in Navadvip 500 plus years ago in Bengal, and which is around the present Mayapur temple area. And in blue it is Nityananda Prabhu, who is the we can say expansion of Balram and Lakshman from Ram Leela, and then expansion of Sheshanag. He came before Mahaprabhu. As always, he sets the paraphernalia and everything necessary for the Lord before the advent of the Lord. And next to Nityanand Prabhu in blue is in white with white beard. You can see Advaita Acharya, which is the avatar of Mahavishnu and Sadashiv together. He mercifully invoked the presence of Mahaprabhu on the earth, on the banks of Ganges near Shantipur near Mayapur in Bengal. And that is how mercifully the Lord came as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and gave the holy name, the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, to all of us, which is the Yug Dharma of this Yuga. And then next to Mahaprabhu, you can see in red or crimson, it is Gadadhar, which is the avatar of Srimati Radharani. So that also comes always in the Leela. And next to it is Srivas Thakur. Srivas is none other than Naradji, avatar of Narad. So let's continue with our reading. So, the Krishna consciousness, the process of Krishna consciousness is not man made, it has been introduced into this world by the Lord Himself, assisted by His associates and confidential devotees. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, made His advent in 1486 AD as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the form of a devotee and inaugurated a massive bhakti movement of devotional service in India. Lord Chaitanya predicted that his non sectarian movement would give love to Godhead to all conditioned souls, regardless of their material designations or background, and would spread throughout the entire world to every town and village, thereby revealing that preaching the glories of the Lord's holy name was confidential service and an intimate expression of pure love of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressed his desire that sincere devotees of the Lord assist him in distributing love of Godhead as follows. I am the only gardener. How many places can I go? How many fruits can I pick and distribute? It would certainly be a very laborious task to pick the fruits and distribute them alone. And still I suspect that some would receive them and others would not. Therefore, I order every man within this universe to accept this Krishna consciousness movement and distribute it everywhere. I am the only gardener. If I do not distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I alone eat? By the transcendental desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, water has been sprinkled all over the tree, and thus there are innumerable fruits of love of Godhead. Distribute the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 9, verses 34 to 39. Although Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions were not at all ambiguous, he also personally demonstrated how to preach. There is sometimes confusion as to the spiritual position of preaching compared to the practice of solitary worship, and for which type of devotee each process is applicable. To a layman, it might appear that someone engaged in various activities of Krishna consciousness is actually engaged in performing material activities. On the other hand, one who meditates in solitude overtly appears more spiritual due to the visible austerities he performs and the serenity in which he lives. A definitive version on the real position of preaching the glories of the holy name of Krishna as well as the practice of solitary worship is provided in What Kind of Devotee Are You? That is Vaisnava Ke, the book from which we are reading at the moment. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote that what kind of devotee are you as a beacon light to pilot aspiring devotees out of Maya's ocean of nations? What kind of devotee are you is a palatable lesson in humility and tolerance. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur took a vow to chant 1 billion names of Krishna, and he performed many difficult devotional penances as well. But subsequently he took to preaching the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Sri Radha Krishna as a most appropriate and intimate devotional service performable in the present age. As the greatest religious reformers of his time, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur could see how in the name of solitary worship devotees are being lost to Maya. Although sometimes the tone of what kind of devotee are you may be critical, the reader should understand that it is actually out of the compassion and mercy that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote, and not out of materialistic fault-finding propensity. Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada confirms the deviations being practiced in the name of solitary worship in Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 29, verse 1, or is it verse? It says 1b, purport. In this way, people who do not preach are criticized. There are many Vaishnavas in Vrindavan who do not like preaching. They chiefly try to imitate Haridas Thakur. The actual result of their so-called chanting in a secluded place however, is that they sleep and think of women and money. Similarly, one who simply engages in temple worship but does not see to the interests of the mass of the people or cannot recognize devotees is called a Kanishta Adhikari. Archayam eva haraye pujam yah श्रद्धायेहते न तद भक्तेषु चान्येषु स भक्तः प्रकृतः स्मृतः. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 2, verse 47. There are many books which explain the importance of being a devotee and how to practice Bhakti Yoga. What kind of devotee are you is considered a priceless devotional jewel, as it is a rare book specifically for the devotees who are or have been practicing Bhakti Yoga. It explains not only the advantages of practicing devotional service but also how to remain in devotional service after becoming a devotee. What kind of devotee are you is suitable reading for devotees who have just begun practicing devotional service, as well as for seasoned devotees. Both can benefit from knowing the subtle tricks of Maya, which are often able to mislead devotees from the path of pure devotional service. Moreover, for persons who want to know how to recognize pure devotees, what kind of devotee are you will be treasure they will want to read again and again. From the first time I read What Kind of Devotee Are You in the original Bengali language, it struck me how important these instructions are for the present day devotees who are struggling to practice Krishna consciousness in the modern age of Kali. When I read some casual translations of What Kind of Devotee Are You during evening classes using the original Bengali name Vaisnava Ke, there was such a response that His Holiness Mukunda Maharaj published the first 10 verses of Vaisnava Ke in ISKCON World Review. Both God brothers, disciples, and other devotees kept asking me for the remaining verses, but other devotional services took precedence and the work remained incomplete. When His Grace Gaura Mandal Bhumi Das Adhikari encouraged me and offered to produce the first copies as a donation for the Sri Mayapur Srila Prabhupada Samadhi Mandir, I surrendered and completed the remaining work. I must also admit that I felt myself quite inadequate for such a work, as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a most erudite Vaishnava scholar whose poems are filled with such depth of meaning that I could only hope to scratch the surface of the ocean. However, due to the blessings of the Vaishnavas and my beloved spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, I offer this humble attempt to present a complete translation of What Kind of Devotee Are You, with a commentary following the teachings of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As a bird can never fly to the limits of the sky, I have only explained as much of What Kind of Devotee Are You as my realization would permit. I offer this to my spiritual father, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to my spiritual grandfather, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, on this sacred Vyas Puja day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, signed by Jayapataka Swami, written on the 8th of February 1988, on the appearance day Vyas Puja celebration of His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. So this is an earlier picture of our Guru Maharaj, Srila A.C. His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, who is our Guru Maharaj. I will just show you the picture of Guru Maharaj here. I think it is from that time, 1988 or that era. So we will continue the reading from the book Vaisnava Ke, beginning from verse 1. And I think altogether there are 19 verses. And we'll go through the verse, the synonyms, translation, purport. Exactly the same style has been used as that of we have seen in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam Prabhupada uses. So I look forward to continuing the reading next time. So thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.